Hello, it's Melinda from Alexis and Melinda's Art Space. So very quickly you saw the front of my journal. It's an altered atlas book, so I'm working in an altered book. This is actually a class kit that I received quite a few years ago, possibly 5 or 6 years ago. The company that made these are no longer in business. It was called Blue Bazaar. Blue Bazaar? Blue something. So the kit sort of come with all the bits and pieces to do the art journal page, or this was a canvas actually, but I turned it into an art journal page. So I decided to grab these kits out and start doing them just to do for the experience, play with something little different and use the supplies, and then I can incorporate the supplies into my normal stuff. So working straight in my altered book, haven't gessoed or anything. So the background is this sort of music, or no, probably school, or it is music paper without the music notes on it. So I'm gluing that down because it's a heavy cardstock. I glued that down with some Matisse high viscosity, so thick gloss gel medium. Nearly out of that jar, actually. That jar's several years old. Everything's several years old in this video, so I do apologise if you see something you like and you then can't find it. Sorry. Story of my life lately, using up old stuff. So just buzzing through the papers, trying to copy what the design was. So this particular one, there was a YouTube video, so I was sort of following along with it. Adapting it a little bit to fit. They did send the canvas out with it, but I decided not to do them on the canvases. I decided to do them in my art journal. So sort of adapting it a little to fit. And I do like this art journal, as it's long and skinny pages if I do a single page, or it's a square page if I do a double page. So it's kind of different to my other art journals. I have several on the go. I think I have about 13, 14 maybe. Oops. And they're all different sizes, they're all different textures, different things. I love working in altered books because you can get them in different shapes and sizes, and they're cheap. You can get them from the op shop for a couple of bucks, or sometimes cheaper. You can get them from friends and family for free. They're the best books around. So I like this Atlas one. The pages are semi-glossy, which is not my preferred type of paper to work on, but 90% of the time I do start with something in the background. So just pulling out the little paint pots and putting some half circles of paint on here. I'm surprised the paint is actually still survived, being several years old. This kit could even be 5 years old. It's terrible, isn't it? I'm trying very hard nowadays not to hoard stuff, but to use it. Hands up and I'll be able to see all your hands. Who hoards stuff and doesn't use it? Yeah. I got these kits for 2 years and I was just so busy at that stage. Alexis was a toddler, and that was before she went to school, and I just didn't have the time, so I just kept throwing them up in the cupboard and thought one day I'll get to them. And today was the day. So just adding some squares in the background. Going to place a big large focal image in the middle, so basically a lot of these ones are going around the edge. You can see my phone off to the side with the YouTube video that I was following along with. I like the end of the result of the layout. I'm actually looking at it at the moment. I've worked out it's handy to have the page open in front of me when I'm doing a voiceover, because I can refer to it a bit easier than trying to look on the little screen on my computer, because my eyesight is horrendous from a distance. So grabbing out these basic grey, and that company's no longer existing, letters, the word love. I remember having those letters in my retail store 11 years ago, so that's probably how old the kit can't be 11 years ago. I got the kit after I had my shop, but I do remember basic grey being in my shop. So just the colours didn't really go, so the class kit told us to gesso over the top, and that's a great thing with pattern papers. If you don't like the particular pattern paper, or it's too bright and too bold, you can just give it a coat of white paint or gesso. I'm not sure which one that is because it's in the little pot, and it can tone down the colours. So I wanted a little bit of the colour left, but I wanted most of it sort of whited out. So just drying off the paint. So these stamps are from Sassafras Lass, I believe. Again, another company I don't believe is around anymore. There's so many good scrapbooking companies that lately, in the last few years, have closed up and gone. There's a fantastic amount still around, but it's sad to look back on a lot of my suppliers and go, oh, they're not around anymore. So trying to use my stamping block, and it didn't work where I wanted to stamp them on the side of near the crease in my book. So I've just used some of these stamps with my fingers easier. They were some circle stamps just to add a bit of interest into the blue circles. And then I do use these stamps to stamp along. I love this one that looks like a torn page. The long border one, that's really cool, that I'm stamping now. So once I've done these class kits, the kits actually go into, all the supplies actually go into my other journal supplies, and I can use them for other stuff. I do tend to like to keep the kits together until I've done the page. Or if I didn't particularly like the project of the page, some of the kits I have just pulled apart as well. So now we randomly stamp over the letters, and it's said to leave all the stamps on just the piece of Perspex that they come on and ink them up. And that's a great way if you're wanting to ink up a lot of stamps, or these ones are all sort of in a pattern. Basically, I just wanted texture on the letters. I didn't want to actually be able to get the full picture. So that's a great tip. I've also done that with alphabet stamps as well. If I just want an alphabet in the background, I just ink up the entire alphabet as it is on the clear acetate sheet, and away we go. So just trying to add a bit of texture, trying to get the letters a little different, so stamping them in different positions on that block. But I do like a few of those stamps. As I said, especially that line one that looks like torn paper. And I do like the check one as well. And the circle one I'm quite partial to as well. So I like nearly all of those. So then we're just giving the love letters a bit of a red paint. Just using a water brush, and then I didn't like how red they were, so then I waxed them all white on top of them. Just using a really nasty water brush, but it's my favourite brush to use, but it does look terribly stained as coloured water gets up the barrel. And I don't know how, I think it's just the design of the pen, I don't know how we can stop that from happening. But as I said, it's my favourite tipped one, so I do keep using it. The discoloration doesn't affect it, because half the time I just use it like a normal paintbrush and stick it in the water anyway. So then I wanted to define the edge of the letters, so I just grabbed my ink pad and rubbing around the letters. So that's just a Ranger waterproof ink pad. I could have used a blending tool, but that involved getting up and getting it, so I just used the ink pad. Being very lazy today, but it works just as well. I do need to find my re-inker for that ink pad, it's getting very dry. So then I decided to stick the letters, and I do need to crayon them together a little bit more because the canvas that was included in the kit was a little larger than my page, but I do overlap them and crayon them together, and they work just as well. As I said, I'm quite happy with how this page turned out. Something different. Sometimes I just love to do, and I wish there was companies that did this. There probably are. I'll have to look into it. That do sort of the class kits, because sometimes I just want to create, but I just want to follow along with something. And often I'll pull up a YouTube video or go to a mission inspiration, and I just want a bit of guidance. Other times I just sit there and just play myself. So now we needed strips of all the different sorts of pattern paper to build our, I suppose you'd call it a paper doll. So the piece of paper, I decided to make it easy with all the strips, to glue them on another piece of paper, but I didn't want it quite thick. So that paper is some, I call it deli paper, but it's not transparent deli paper. It's in Australia at IGA. If you go and get some meat from the deli, it's put into a plastic bag and then it's wrapped in the, it's almost newsprint paper without the newsprint on it. So once we often get just a few slices of meat for dinner or lunch, and I am saving the papers. They make great drop papers because they're quite large. They'd be probably, they'd be 24 inches by 24 inches. Sometimes you get a big sheet, sometimes you get a small sheet, depending on what you buy. And I've been keeping them for drop papers, and they're a nice thin paper, so if you do want to do a collage like this, I didn't want to add a lot of bulk because the cardstock that I'm adding is bulky. So I didn't want to go bulky on bulky on bulky. I've actually seen one of my YouTubers do this, Shell C, not one of my YouTubers, one of the people I follow on YouTube. Her channel is Shell C, as in SHEL space C, and she often builds paper pierced elements on deli paper and then glues them all to her work. So I was sort of being a bit inspired by her. So then I wanted to fix up the dress. So I'm just drawing on the back a bit of a better outline. To get the dress sort of form I wanted to. I could have done it a bit more rounded. She's a bit chunky, but she also doesn't have a face. I tried to do a face and I decided I didn't want to because I didn't want to stuff it up. I don't think the original piece had a face either. Faces are a work in progress for me. So then I decided it needed a bit of defining around the edge, so I just grabbed a black marker and sort of touching just around the edge, just so it would pop from the page and not get lost. And then I decided to, what do I decide to do? I thought I decided to, I defined where the pocket was too. So then I decided the love letters weren't standing out as much. So I believe this is a brush pen from Daiso. I'm just trying to see what pen I'm using. It's not a permanent pen. I do need to invest in some, I want to invest in small pens, some Indian ink pens that are permanent, but that one works just as well. So I'm looking, that's what I'm looking for, a doily. So this is what forms the head of the girl or the doll. So it's an interesting layout, something I probably would have never come up with on my own, but I did, as I said, I did enjoy do it. I did enjoy do it. Oh my god, I did enjoy doing it. Just decided to add a bit more coloured paint just because I could, and decided to get some drippage happening if I could. I don't do a lot of dripping in my journal because I don't like it to drip through onto the other pages, because often it does sneak through to the other pages. Obviously gone to get something. Oh no, I'm back. So now time to glue it down. That's an Elmer's Extreme glue stick. It's very sticky. I picked them up for $1 at the Reject Shop. I know I'm repeating this, quite a while ago. No, they're probably 12 months, 18 months ago. And they're great. They do stick really well, but they're very sticky and tacky, and I probably wouldn't use it again. They're probably no better than other brands of glue sticks I've picked up, so only because they're $1 I decided to try them, and unless they were $1 again I probably wouldn't pick them up. I could have got them from Officeworks. So that's the layout done, just flicking through some still pictures, some close-ups for you. Let me know if you like the close-ups at the end. I personally do. If you don't like them, I can start omitting them. It is another step in my editing process. Thanks for watching. See you all again. Bye for now.